Hey friends, thanks for being here. I'm going to show you how to make one of these really cool Sunburst inspired crowns. And you can do it for really cheap too. I'm going to have two different levels of difficulty. Beginner, the easy level, and the glue gun gangsta level. So let's get started. Feel free to pause to read what it is that you're going to need for either of them. Some of the supplies are going to be interchangeable depending upon what it is that you want to do and how advanced you want it to be. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the zip tie or the beginner tutorial, you will need a smaller or a more slender headband. You don't necessarily need a wire headband, as a lot of the different tutorials out there indicate. You can do this with an inexpensive, cheap plastic headband. And so typically what I will do is take off whatever outer material surrounds that. The next step, you will go ahead and get your various zip ties. And honestly, this is probably the most time consuming part, just arranging the zip ties to be however it is that you want them. Go ahead and get various sizes. Zip ties come in lengths of 4 inches. I think the next step is either 7 or 8, and then 11. Then there's also 14 and 18 if you want to get super crazy out there. But for this tutorial, I actually used the 8-inch zip ties as well as the 11-inch zip ties. The manner in which I am arranging the zip ties doesn't necessarily have a particular rhyme or reason. I briefly considered including some of the 4-inch zip ties, and honestly I do see a lot of other cosplayers and crafters utilize those, but for me I wanted it to be kind of grandiose, kind of gigantic and all of that good stuff, so I considered it and set them aside. I did, however, cut some of the 11-inch ties down to a more manageable size. So essentially just spend time arranging your zip ties to be how it is that you want, laying them out. Then after you've arranged them in the order that you want, you're going to go ahead and prepare the zip ties to actually be installed. The way that I do this is that I will go ahead and insert the thin end into the little clicker part and then bring it down, but leave enough space to where I can still slide the headband through. You don't want to zip them down all the way until you have them exactly how you want them to be, because you may still need to go ahead and manipulate the ties, scoot them around some. Pause for ASMR, because I know somebody out there likes that. But essentially, you don't want to zip them down all the way until you are 100% sure of where it is that you want them to be. And what I did was I guided the larger zip ties based upon the location of the very top. Kind of visual. You can use a Sharpie marker to put a line where you want the direct center to be. You also can, instead of zipping them down and applying them one at a time, you can zip down a few of them and then loop them all together. Again, there's not an official method of doing this that's mandated by any organization out there. This is literally zip ties and a plastic headband. Most of the next section is just going to be literally arranging how it is that you want. Some of them you may still need to turn to be in the proper direction, so that way you don't have some spikes going at a 45-degree angle and some spikes going at a 90-degree angle. You want to make sure that you arrange them exactly how it is that you want, that they're all even, or however evenly spaced you want them to be. And then once you have them in place, go ahead and fully tighten the zip tie as much and as tight as you possibly can. I was able to get a lot of these by hand, but some of them, some of the larger zip ties were still a little loose, and so that's where the pliers can actually come in handy if you utilize said pliers. The little hobby hobby that I have pictured came from Ace Hardware years ago, because it's like a Swiss Army knife and has a screwdriver head and everything too, so that's why I like to utilize that. But essentially a lot of this is literally just pulling and arranging however it is that you want. Another good use for the pliers is also, say you zip pulled the spires in the wrong direction, so they're going away from you or they're going towards you at too stark of an angle. Even though you've pulled it as tightly as you possibly can, you can still utilize the pliers to gently, or maybe a little roughly, tug it into the opposite direction, or to be specifically where it is that you would need it to go. Another thing to remember, and here it is, I'm actually using the pliers to go ahead and finish up as mentioned. Another thing to remember is that when you're getting down to the very sides of your headband, you want to go ahead and space some of those out just a little bit, because once you put the headband on, it's going to expand. So make sure that you either leave enough spacing over there to where it looks to the liking that you would like, or you can either add more over there to where it's sufficient. I wound up adding more zip ties off camera, so that way it had the appearance that I wanted. And honestly, when I was making this, I thought it was extra, but considering the cosplay that I utilized it for, it actually was perfect. And then once you have everything arranged how you want it to be, you can add just a thin line of hot glue or super glue, whatever adhesive you would like, but just something small to keep everything secured in place. Ta-da! So here is an optional glue gun gangsta step if you would like. I wound up adding flowers to this crown because I thought it would really add to the appearance of the cosplay. So typically when you are working with Dollar Tree flowers, there is a small stem that connects them to the little fake branches, and that small stem is wedged in place, going through the petals and the leaves, holding everything together. Typically what I will do is I will go ahead and cut that stem down after I've removed it from the flower. As usual, you want to go ahead and first arrange your flowers to be however it is that you would like. I then also cut the leaves, so go ahead and add some of those onto the back of the crown to give it more of a realistic like appearance. The key is to make this look like you didn't get everything for $5 at the Dollar Tree. But what it is that I am doing is I am cutting the stem, apparently also plucking out an eyeball. And then I take a little bit of hot glue and I put it at the back, because again, that stem goes through the different layers of that fake material, those fake petals and those fake leaves, and that single stem holds everything together. And by cutting it, I'm taking away what holds it in place. So the glue is to help hold everything together so that it doesn't fall apart once I actually formally glue it to the crown. As mentioned, a lot of this is just prep work and placement and visualization to make sure that it's what it is that you need it to be. The leaves being added, you honestly really couldn't see them because they were black. And I did have every intention of painting this crown because I couldn't find black zip ties in the lengths that I wanted, so I just got the white ones, and I've got plenty of paint around the house. But again, a lot of it is just visualizing, arranging, and organizing it to be how it is that you want it to be. And then once that is done, then just go ahead and glue it in place. Make sure that your glue is as close to the base of the headband as possible. What you'll need to do is you may also need to hold the flowers in place as you glue them, but just make sure that the glue is close to the base and that that's where you are adhering the flowers. If you glue the flowers to the spires, the spikes to the actual zip ties up there, sometimes that actually is visible from behind. And I will actually later in the video on the official glue gun gangster section show you how you can cover some of that up if it does happen and you're utilizing flowers. But for now, just make sure that as you're applying the flowers that you are getting it as close to the base of the headband as possible. Also, don't be afraid to glue the flowers to one another, adding a small dot to make sure that they unfurl just how it is that you would like. Incidentally enough, there's that eyeball. Incidentally enough, I actually ran out of black flowers, or so I thought. I forgot that I had bought another set. So you will randomly see one fake red rose to serve as the completion for this particular crown. And there I am arranging it as such. I also, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but please make sure that you've got a nice clear workplace if at all possible. That you've got some newspaper to work on, or an old cardboard box, an old Amazon box, because I know you've got one in your garage somewhere. But something to help protect the surface. I would not recommend using an old priority mail envelope, because if you spill or something like that, I wound up using a heat gun for an unrelated project, and the damn box melted to part of my desk. So don't use priority mail envelopes unless you've cut them open and you're using, reversing them or something like that. Other than that, again, placement, glue work, arranging the leaves and the petals to be what it is that I would like. And honestly, I was really, really happy with how it is that this crown came out. One of the reasons why I wanted to use zip ties for this one is because of the fact that the first Sunburst crown that I made broke, but it broke because of travel, and that was more of the advanced or the glue gun gangster level, which is why I'm going to show that to you guys later on. But here it is, unpainted so far, and I'm just trying it out, making sure it's what I like, and yeah, I think it's good. Then we travel to my garage, which is, a war zone for old products and yard supplies and stuff like that. But that's also where I'll go ahead, open the door up, and do a lot of my spray painting there. And we just go ahead and let that dry. Don't forget, once it's dry, to seal it. Now, on to the gangsta level. So typically for this, because we're working with wooden dowels or bamboo sticks or chopsticks, whatever it is that you wanted, typically you want a wide headband for this. And again, you can still get a cheap headband from Dollar Tree or the Family Dollar store, whatever inexpensive place it is that you want. And you can just go ahead and disassemble it. As you can see, I am fighting it because that is a damn good glue that they had on there. Oh, I was using a seam ripper. Okay, I had to get my seam ripper to go ahead and get that last little part because my scissors were too big to go through. But either way, whatever it is that you need to take that outside fabric off of the headband, do so. And it again is just as reliable and just as reputable and just as steady and sturdy as a regular $3, $4, $5 headband. Next, this is where you're going to need a little bit of cardboard. After you've done so, you can go ahead and trace another headband slightly bigger than the one that you have and cut that out. It doesn't need to be any taller than maybe in half of an inch or so, but essentially you are going to put this hot glue this directly in the center of your headband. This little cardboard piece here is going to serve kind of as a base and a little platform for your dowels to set on. Optional, you can put some hot glue in the center first before putting this on, or at least hot glue to where it is that you want it to be, so that way if you've got a low or a high temperature hot glue gun, the new glue will help fuse with the old glue and make a little bit of a more stronger bond. And then same methodology as before with the beginner level crown. Get out the sticks that you want, the dowels that you want, whatever you're going to be using for spires. Again, you will be arranging them how it is that you would like them to be. This is where I also recommend wire cutters or heavy duty scissors because of the fact that the wooden dowels are a little bit thicker. I have Cutco cutlery scissors that I got years ago when I sold Cutco cutlery, and those things cut through anything. But And as you can see, they will cut through anything to where I can just go ahead and finish breaking off that piece. But if you don't have Cutco cutlery scissors, you can go ahead and use cheap wire cutters. I think if you've got rose clippers, those could be sufficient as well, since it's kind of the same methodology and width that a flower stem would have. But experiment with the lengths that you want, and then go ahead and cut your dowels or your sticks down to size, and then arrange them in the order that you want them to be glued. Consider this kind of like just how with the prep work with the zip ties, how you had to loop everything before you were to apply them. You're going to do the same thing here. Arrange them to be the direction that you want and all of that good stuff. Also be mindful of the sides and how far down you go over there to you can see one of the tips of the headband is kind of poking towards my belly. So that side, whatever it is, I don't know if there's an official name on it, but that's what you want to be mindful of where it is that you arrange it. And then using your hot using your hot glue gun, go ahead and begin to slowly glue the wooden pieces to the actual headband. You can also use put glue on the cardboard if you would like, to give it a little bit more or a little bit stronger base and adhesion. My glue gun was, I love my glue gun. I think I got it from Michael's perhaps, but it's a 2 temperature glue gun, and I've got Gorilla Glue sticks. You don't have to be particular about your hot glue if you don't want to. Just make sure that you are particular about the application, how it is that you do it, because a lot of times often better than the supplies that you have. And again, this is a tutorial for how to do this for cheap. You do not have to go and spend a lot of money in order to have quality things. So that's essentially all that this section of the tutorial is: gluing our spires into place however it is that you want them to be. Just go slow, be very careful when you do so. I also called this the glue gun gangster level because gangster sounds a lot cooler than advanced. And one of my friends on Facebook said, glue gun gangster, how many glue gun burns do you have to have in order to be a gangster? Bro, listen, I'm sure all of us are gangsters at heart when it comes to the glue gun. Also, gently, after you're done applying your spires in place, gently give them a slight wiggle to make sure that you've got a good enough bond with the glue gun and the spires. The number one thing that I experienced with my previous crown is that some of those sticks came out of place, whether it was the day of the photo shoot or whether it was the day of the con that I wore it to back in July. But just make sure that you've got them good in place. Give them a wiggle. If they are loose, add more glue. Next up, we are continuing with that optional gangster level that I showed you before. I'm not going to go into the prep work for these roses because it's already been filmed, but of course, cut them down. Make sure you add a little bit of glue to keep them secure. Arrange them how it is that you want, and then glue them into place. What I also did was I glued the leaves to the back to cover up any excess glue that would have been visible. And then this required a lot of paint actually, and what I wound up doing was going at it with short bursts at different angles to make sure that the red was completely covered. And as always, once you are done painting, please make sure that you seal it. Mod Podge or some type of top coat will work great. Let it dry, and then boom bang, you are, well, I'm the queen of the underworld, but you're queen too of whatever world you want to be a queen of. And also shout out to my best friend for helping out with this photo shoot as well as modeling her crown. It was a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I hope that you found this tutorial useful. If you like more how to DIY videos such as this, let me know and I'll bring you more. Thanks again.